Thanks for that, Justin. Yeah, John has not had the best records on stream so far, but he's definitely made a lot of fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I'm sure he'd prefer to win. Certainly one of the more exciting players we've had on stream. He's used a lot of unconventional strategies. He's a player that really likes to kind of use combinations of Pokemon to do some strange tricks. Maybe, I think the most common thing we see in video game championships, especially in high-level play, is a lot of people like to be very safe. So, they use Pokemon that work in lots of different situations, and that, kind of no matter what, you can't lose too hard. Whereas John is very much a risk taker with his team. So he's got a lot of tricks that are very reliant on like 2 or 3 combinations of Pokemon, and if something happens to disrupt that, it can go down a little bit easier. But when it works, it looks really amazing. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
It looks like there's nothing you can do against it.
Right, and I think Gavin actually is a really fun player to watch as well. We've seen him on stream a few times as well. He was on stream at the World Championships last year, I believe, against Arashimari, the reigning world champion at that point. He also played in the top 8 of Nationals, and I believe, unfortunately, he lost that match on stream last year. But Gavin, known as a very aggressive player, he uses,
very aggressive player.
Yeah, I mean, his teams might not seem too much different than a normal player's, but he's someone who really likes to make those aggressive reads, to try to go for the big KOs, and it should be fun. There's 2 players here who definitely play without fear, and I think that's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, these are going to be 2 very interesting styles to see go up against each other too, because as you mentioned, John uses a lot of disruptive Pokemon, disruptive tactics. He really succeeds when he doesn't let his opponent get the ball rolling, when he doesn't let the snowball start going downhill. And Gavin really relies on snowballing early leads to make sure that his opponent has, even if Gavin makes a wrong play, his opponent's too far behind to come back from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's sort of the fun of this matchup, because I think it's very easy for either side to get thrown off here. On John's end, he has to worry about Gavin getting a quick KO, which, with those hard reads, he's more prone to do than most players. And, with losing a Pokemon early can make it much easier for John's teams to break down the normal team. However, with Gavin, you've got that aggressive team. If something like maybe a Teeter Dance interrupts the flow of his offense, it's easy to lose an important Pokemon and get behind early in the match and then have trouble also. So these guys have to be very careful.
Yeah, so we're going to hop right into our first game of the day. Remember, these are best of 3 matches. This is game 1, round 1 of Day 2 Swiss here in Indianapolis. We'll be looking at John's screen on the top, and then Gavin will be at the bottom of your screen. So looking at the screens now, John is running that Lopunny, that Azumarill, that Gengar, Arcanine, Excadrill, and Togekiss that we saw yesterday. And Gavin is running a little bit more of a standard-looking team, Kangaskhan, Volcarona, Wash, Rotom, Thundurus, Landorus, and Aegislash.
Yeah, so, on Gavin's side, a bit fewer tricks there. He's got 2 electric-type Pokemon, just interesting. The combination of Kangaskhan and Volcarona, which I really love. We haven't seen a whole lot of that. I don't think we've seen it on stream yet. But, Kangaskhan, one of the few Mega Pokemon with Fake Out. Volcarona often has Quiver Dance, but could also have Rage Powder. So there's kind of some fun tricks between the 2 Pokemon there. And people like to tunnel down the Mega Pokemon sometimes, and allows a powerful non-Mega Pokemon to set up on occasion.
Yeah, but speaking of powerful Mega Pokemon, both Gengar and Lopunny on the field for John, as we saw yesterday. Both of those Pokemon are capable of Mega Evolving, putting some threat against Gavin. But of course, when you're up against Pokemon like Gengar and Lopunny, you want to have a Pokemon like Thundurus on your side. If he's running that Taunt, Gavin's looking very good. Yeah,
absolutely. It's sort of the same thing we saw Wolf try to do yesterday against the same lead, leading that potential Taunt Thundurus, and then a more defensive Pokemon, Rotom, for Gavin instead of a Moongus like Wolf.
And our first Excadrill, I believe, of the tournament out on the field as well, switching out in favor of that Lopunny. Realizes that Lopunny is not going to get much done against Thundurus and Wash Rotom, and that Wash Rotom and Thundurus have a pretty poor matchup against that Excadrill. Wash Rotom switching out for Landorus, and now it's just going to be a double switch for both players. John will Mega Evolve his Gengar, going to get that Shadow Tag on the field, making sure that his opponent cannot switch anymore, and also protect. So John playing the disruptive, playing the slow game, just trying to make sure that Gavin can't do what he wants to do here.
Yeah, I think Gavin actually made a really great switch there, though. Landorus coming in creates huge problems for Excadrill, though we did see yesterday this Excadrill as a Focus Sash, so a single Earthquake isn't going to deal with it, but Gengar isn't going to be able to do too much with that Taunt coming in. Landorus' Earthquake, super effective on both Pokemon. Really tough spot for John here. Great switch by Gavin.
Yeah, good switch to get that Landorus in, and in favor of Excadrill, Arcanine on the field. The dogs are barking this morning, trying to wake everyone up. Intimidate against the Landorus and Thundurus, going to make sure that this Earthquake coming out isn't going to deal that much damage, but it's still going to be super effective on both Pokemon on John's side. So they're going to still take quite a bit, but thanks to that Intimidate, no KOs. Icy Wind Oh no, Landorus avoids the Icy Wind, and that's not how you want to start off your tournament, with an Icy Wind miss against a Landorus. Only going to be able to deal damage and slow the Thundurus, and that's just going to pick up a KO on Gengar, and that's John's Mega out of the way real early.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Landorus switch put on a lot of pressure there. Gengar was going to seemingly go down no matter what. I don't think that Icy Wind would have knocked Landorus out anyway, but at least it would have been nice to get that damage traded.
Would have at least slowed it down,
Yeah, absolutely, which is a big deal here, too. Maybe Excadrill could have been quicker than it. The way this played out instead, Landorus still threatening to fire some super effective Earthquakes off. Thundurus healing off a good chunk of that damage. Landorus still at full health. A Pokemon and a half down now for John. A really tough way to start out this game, but Gavin played it smart. He got Landorus in on that first turn, probably expecting something similar to what he got, and just tough for John. He picked 3 ground-weak Pokemon after that Gengar Mega Evolution, and Lopunny, who just doesn't take damage very well, and you might want to rethink that one going into Game 2.
Yeah, John was really hoping to catch out the non-Landorus Pokemon so that with that Mega Gengar, get rid of them so he could have an advantage going into it, but unfortunately, great switch by Gavin made sure that he has all of the momentum. Thunder Wave onto Arcanine, going to paralyze that Pokemon. John's Excadrill will be able to get off a Rock Slide, deal some good damage against that Thundurus, and a little bit onto the Wash Rotom. Will-O-Wisp will connect, also going to burn that Wash Rotom, deal a little bit of chip damage as well.
Yeah, so not too bad there. I mean, at least John getting back in the game, dealing some damage.
Dealing some damage.
Yeah, things
Every
improving.
little bit helps.
Yeah, Rotom getting burned will help slowly whittle it down at least, but, certainly would prefer to get that on a physically attacking Pokemon like Landorus. But yeah, I guess we're kind of seeing some of the weaknesses of John's team, and I think that's some of what happens when you have this many tricks on it, right? You kind of lose sight of type synergy because it's not really the focus of the team.
Yeah, also has to worry about more Intimidates coming in from that Landorus in the back. Wash Rotom protecting itself. Oh, great call. Trying to go for the Drill Run with that Mold Breaker, but Wash Rotom not going to take any damage because of that Protect. Hidden Power comes out from Thundurus onto Excadrill, doing a little bit of damage while it avoids a Will-O-Wisp. So, Will-O-Wisp connect with the Wash Rotom, missed on the Thundurus.
Yeah, I guess the John's Pokemon are kind of having a hard time waking up this morning as well.
Yeah.
I missed Will-O-Wisp and I missed Icy Wind already. A little unfortunate. We do see a cool trick there with Excadrill firing a Drill Run at the Rotom. If you didn't catch the ability activation messages, that might seem a little strange to you at home. Why is he attacking this levitating Pokemon? It's just a flying type Pokemon in the back, but Mold Breaker allows Excadrill to hit Rotom with ground type attacks. That's the main reason this sort of Excadrill is used. Lots of teams rely on that Rotom. Pretty much if you don't have Thundurus, normally you have Rotom for most players playing standard teams. So it really struggles, or makes those teams that rely on Rotom defensively to keep their team intact and switch in as a pivot. Troubles them a lot, but unfortunately Gavin is both Thundurus and Rotom, which makes things a little bit trickier.
Yeah, Thundurus, Rotom, and Landorus. So Landorus back out on the field, getting Intimidate off again, making sure that both this Arcanine and the Excadrill have, negligible attack. Arcanine going to retreat as well, going to reset its attack, switching out in favor of Lopunny. Going to try and get some of that fake out pressure back on the field, try and grasp as much momentum as possible. But switching right into a taunt from the Thundurus. We saw Lopunny be an incredibly disruptive Pokemon yesterday, but with that taunt, nothing is going to be able to happen. And the Drill Run into now no longer levitating, but the flying Landorus.
Yeah, Mold Breaker can't help you with that one.
Nope.
Only ignores abilities, not the type chart. A great taunt on this Lopunny coming in there. And again, we're seeing Gavin just make excellent plays. Landorus gets in safely, now threatening an Earthquake. Thundurus helping out its fellow member of its trio there by breaking the potential Focus Sash of Excadrill, which if Gavin cleverly watched the stream yesterday, he would have seen. So a nice position now for him again.
Well, John's going to use Fake Out onto the Landorus, make sure that Excadrill is able to get off a Rock Slide this time around. May not be able to pick up the KO on the Thundurus, though. It's going to be close. Survives with 13 HP thanks to those Intimidates from Landorus. Thunderbolt comes out onto Lopunny. Feeling not that much damage. Pretty bulky Thundurus there. Recovering off with those leftovers, making sure, that Thundurus has been around for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's probably going to stay around a little while longer. A Landorus should be free to attack this turn, and a big Earthquake could go a long way toward protecting its Thundurus friend there.
Yeah, especially when you know that in the back there's just another Arcanine. So type chart not working out for John today.
Yeah, the frail Pokemon and 3 Pokemon weak to Earthquake strategy is a little vulnerable to the most common Pokemon in the video game championships here.
Yeah, there's a reason why Landorus is used on pretty much every team, and we're seeing it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Though, I mean, to John's credit, he picked up 7 wins yesterday. I'm sure he faced more than a few Landorus there, so he's definitely got some tricks up his sleeve for it.
Yeah, in 9 rounds, probably faced 9 Landorus. Lopunny is going to switch out for the Arcanine, trying to make sure that Excadrill can survive one more turn with Intimidate. We'll have to see if the damage goes the way that John wants it to. Of course, that Intimidate will weaken an Earthquake from the Landorus. Excadrill instead actually going to Protect, trying to make sure that it takes no damage at all. Another taunt comes in from Thundurus onto the Excadrill, and a superpower from Landorus onto Arcanine. Not going to be able to pick up the KO, and the attack and defense fall there could be pretty big for John's Excadrill.
Yeah, absolutely. Not quite the move I was expecting to see from Landorus there, trying to finish off that Lopunny. Unfortunately, catches another Intimidate and just kind of annoys the dog a little bit.
Yeah, the lion was real scared of that bunny, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you've got to be, right? Nobody wants to get teeter danced, but unfortunately, Landorus fell for the bait a little bit there.
Yeah, and because of that, it is forced to switch out. So Landorus switches out in favor of Rotom, so that burnt Rotom is back in. Oh, Arcanine is paralyzed, not going to be able to move. Probably trying for either a Protect or maybe an Extreme Speed, something like that.
Or Helping Hand.
Or Helping Hand. Taunt from the Thundurus onto the onto the Arcanine, making sure that there will be no Helping Hands. Finally picks up a KO on that Thundurus with Rock Slide from Excadrill and dealing more damage to the Rotom, which will heal it off a little bit with Citrus.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Rotom going to take a little bit more burn damage now, and most likely going to see that Landorus come back in and get another Intimidate off onto Excadrill.
Yeah, also safely getting in another chance to select the Earthquake button this time. So Landorus really getting in great shape. But actually was pretty impressed by the way John's battled back in this game. I mean, Landorus still seems like it has this one under control, but he did a lot of damage. Like, this game just started off so poorly for John, but he's brought it back pretty close.
Yeah, and of course, Gavin's Thundurus with that taunt, probably the MVP of this. I think that Thundurus has taunted more than it's attacked in this game, just trying to disrupt the Disruptor now. So another Protect comes out from Excadrill as Earthquake from Landorus out on the field. Probably going to be able to pick up that Arcanine finally. So it's just going to be Lopunny and Excadrill. So a free switch in for Lopunny, another Fake Out Pressure turn. But again, that Excadrill has just taken so many Intimidates. That's about the only Pokemon that can deal damage on John's side, and it can't deal damage.
Yeah, it's going to pretty much need some critical hits to get through those Intimidates at this point. I wouldn't be too surprised to see Teeter Dance coming out here at some point, assuming Lopunny will even be able to survive an attack to get it off. But I think that seems like the only real out for John here. He's going to have to get that confusion going, and we've seen him pull it off before, so maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, you never know. Protect comes out from the Wash Rotom. Lopunny will go for the Fake Out onto Landorus. They're going to be able to deal some damage. Landorus flinching to the Fake Out. Iron Head from Excadrill. That could be big if he can get a critical hit. But unfortunately, too many Intimidates. Excadrill just not able to deal the damage there.
It's still a pretty good chunk of damage, though. It's like an Iron Head would be very close to knocking out Landorus, so not too bad of damage there. A combination of a Teeter Dance, a Confusion Self-Hit, and an Iron Head would knock out Landorus.
And it looks like we are going to see Lopunny try and get a dance off. Protect from Excadrill. Earthquake again from Landorus. Not going to deal any damage to Excadrill, but will hit the Lopunny. We'll have to see how defensively that Lopunny is trained. Lopunny survives, gets the Teeter Dance off, and John is in the position he likes being, rolling the dice. Yeah, Landorus is now confused. Wash Rotom is now confused and burnt, so it's taking damage every turn and potentially damaging itself. Hits itself in its own confusion, so takes some damage and will now be taking the burn as well. Looks like Rotom only has one more turn left in it as well, and if John can get a lucky confusion hit off on that Landorus, he might be able to still take this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gavin would be quite foolish to give it to him. The nice advantage of Gavin's position here is he's got a remaining Pokemon. So yeah, just get Landorus out of there, come back Earthquake later, don't flip coins. This is the right way to play the situation.
Yeah, and having Kangaskhan in the back too, you're in a pretty good position. But the Drain Punch from Lopunny going to deal a little bit of damage to Kangaskhan, but it's so bulky. Lopunny will be able to heal itself off just a little bit. And another Iron Head from Excadrill onto that Landorus/Kangaskhan slot. Still not dealing enough damage and snaps out of its confusion. So Wash Rotom able to launch this Thunderbolt. Probably able to pick up the KO there. Yes, Lopunny will faint, so now Excadrill just looking in trouble here. Going to pick up the KO on Rotom with that burn, but another Intimidate coming in. Kangaskhan and Landorus up against a low 8, well, pretty healthy Excadrill, but still not in good position. John did do a really great job of clawing his way back into this game, though, which I think puts him in a pretty nice position for game 2.
Yeah, I don't think you can feel that bad about this loss if you're John. I mean, certainly the first couple turns can't go that way if John wants to win this series, but he played the match itself well, and I think a respectable game 1 loss there, especially considering he missed a couple attacks early in the match, which also could have swung the game a little bit differently. You know, had that icy win from Gengar hit Landorus, it would have fainted much earlier in the battle.
Oh, yeah.
Though I'm sure it would have changed the way the rest of the battle played out. So definitely something for John to build off of there. But you know, we kind of mentioned that going into the preview of the match that because both sides kind of have easily disruptible strategies, those first few turns are very important, right? And kind of the side that got the advantage there could easily just kind of tilt the match in a way that the other side couldn't recover from, and that ended up being exactly what we saw. You know, Gavin got those quick KOs by making a great switch on Landorus and kind of just applying pressure there, and he was able to take the match pretty cleanly because of it.
Yeah, well, we're going to hop right into game 2, see if John Hu can take it back, regain the momentum that he was starting to get back at the end of game 1. You saw him forfeit so he didn't have to play out the last remaining turns. So we'll have to see if he can make any adjustments. Maybe he thinks he can just play the same way and get a little bit luckier this time.
Maybe, and we're getting in the match really quickly here. So I was kind of expecting, especially John, to have to think about this one a little bit more, but apparently knows exactly what he wants to do. I think on John's end, I would switch things up. I don't think you can pick
3 Earthquake weak Pokemon.
I just think Landorus is too big of a problem. You've got to make some adjustments there.
Yeah, well, Gavin will lead off his double electric types, the Thundurus and the Wash Rotom. And it looks like he made a good call because Azumarill is on the field now. That's a Pokemon you don't want to let get set up, and the best way to keep it from setting up is threatening it with offensive pressure from 2 electric types.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the best combinations of Pokemon that you could use to stop this situation. Lopunny can only fake out one of the 2 Pokemon, right? There's still an electric type Pokemon left to fire a Thunderbolt at Azumarill. Very likely it'll have to protect or switch here because of it. So, nice lead by Gavin. It's one of the advantages of having both Rotom and Thundurus instead of one or the other. He has both these Pokemon to counter this situation, and one of the solutions to dealing with your opponent's electric-type Pokemon fake-out just isn't going to work here.
Yeah, as you mentioned at the start of the game, most people only using one of those electric-type Pokemon. Both of these on the field for Gavin. The Wash Rotom is the threat, going to take the fake-out instead as Taunt from Thundurus, so no damage being dealt this turn from Gavin. Azumarill will get its Belly Drum off, so it's going to maximize its attack, cut its HP in half, but then eat that Citrus Berry and get it right back up to about 75% health. And that's basically, I mean, Lopunny is now taunted, but that's basically a free Belly Drum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both sides probably are pretty happy with that play in some regard. Gavin got what he expected there. Thundurus, if it's trained very defensively, often can't knock out an Azumarill from here with Thunderbolt. I think it's very unlikely it can. So rather than getting Azumarill too low HP, he taunted the Lopunny so he didn't have to worry about the threat of Teeter Dance and Protect. And with Aqua Jets from Azumarill flying around in addition to that, it'd be very easy for the game to get out of hand. So probably a wise play, even though he had to give up a lot to get there.
Yeah, John's going to switch out the Lopunny for the Togekiss, probably trying to get that redirection in. But Thundurus, smart play, taunts the Togekiss on the switch in. Now Togekiss cannot redirect any of Gavin's attacks, especially, for example, that Will-O-Wisp, which would completely negate everything that John just did.
Yeah, absolutely. A really great play by Gavin. Once again, he's
Very
played
smart.
flawlessly this series. That taunt on Togekiss really helping out there. And now Azumarill's going to lose the ability to protect.
Yeah, Thundurus is just, not having any of it, keeping taunting on that Azumarill. Aqua Jet will pick up the KO. I'll have to see if Wash Rotom will be able to connect with its Will-O-Wisp this time, especially with Togekiss air slashing it. Togekiss is not a fun Pokemon to go against because you flinch.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
If you can't avoid the Will-O-Wisp, flinch it.
Yeah, I mean, Togekiss is one of the few Pokemon that kind of still provide support while taunted. Still more likely than not to flinch you with Air Slash when it gets it off thanks to that Serene Grace ability. And it creates some problems for Gavin here. However, Kangaskhan now, if it has Fake Out, can stop Azumarill from attacking, allowing Rotom to use a Thunderbolt here, thanks to the taunt from Thundurus.
We'll have to see if Rotom will be able to get off an attack this time, or if Togekiss can keep flinching it as much as possible. Fake Out from Kangaskhan onto Azumarill, dealing a good amount of damage, about 25% of the health there. Azumarill flinching, Togekiss trying to go for that Air Slash again onto Wash Rotom. Still not dealing much damage, but will it get the flinch again? Yes! 2 flinches against that Wash Rotom. Togekiss's taunt wears off, and now you have a fully belly-drummed Azumarill with a Togekiss that can now redirect attacks.
Yeah, Togekiss is living right, gets those 2 Air Slashes, and
Togekiss
now,
woke up.
Yeah, Gavin is in a world of hurt. Playing very well, I guess, on both sides. a certain irony, too, that Azumarill really doesn't want to be taunted right now to not be able to protect, but Thunder's had to taunt it, right, because they knew it was going to faint, so kind of set himself up.
Yeah, well, Togekiss trying to redirect attacks. The double edge from Kangaskhan onto Togekiss, dealing a lot of damage. Not going to be able to pick up the KO, though. Hurt by the Rocky Helmet. Good tech there from John to make sure that Kangaskhan's a little bit weaker now. So taking a lot of damage from the recoil plus the Rocky Helmet. The Thunderbolt as well, going to make sure that Togekiss is out of the game now. But it did its job. It got its redirection off. Now Azumarill gets to take out one of Gavin's opposing Pokemon. He chooses the Rotom. The return, easy KO on Wash Rotom, and now he can bring Lopunny back on and keep the momentum up. And Taunt wears off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a really great play to knock out Rotom instead of Kangaskhan. Again, it's one of the situations where it's very tempting just to always focus on the Mega, especially Kangaskhan, one of the de facto best Pokemon in the game for 2 years now. But Rotom was a much bigger problem with that resistance to Aqua Jet.
Yeah.
Now, Lopunny can try to fire a fake out onto his Kangaskhan. Even if it has Protect, it doesn't really matter. Aqua Jet can knock out Landorus. Get Kangaskhan the turn after. Sucker Punch likely not going to be able to take out Azumarill. And Azumarill just running over this game.
Oh yeah, Team Bunny on John's side is hopping his way over to a Game 3. Lopunny going to Mega Evolve, fake out that Kangaskhan as you mentioned. And then John able to pick up a clean KO with that Aqua Jet onto Landorus. Even with the Intimidate, doesn't matter. Azumarill got its belly drum off. It's way too powerful to just suffer one Intimidate. And that's going to be, a very strong Game 2 from John. Making those adjustments after coming back from a pretty hard loss, Game 1. You have to think Gavin probably thinks he got just a little bit unlucky with those 2 flinches, but the double Aqua Jet from Azumarill going to pick up the final KO there. Game 2 goes to John Hugh, and we are going to Game 3.
Yeah, that we are. Azumarill just completely taking over that game, but getting a lot of help from its friends.
Completely ran over that game.
A lot of help from its friends,
Yeah.
though. Both Togekiss and Lopunny really showing us some of the value they can have on the support end. And again, we kind of see John's strange tactics coming through. He's got a lot of weird looks he can throw at you. And
different modes.
That's some of the fun of this team, right? Is that it's difficult to know exactly what he's going to use and lead safely. It looked like Gavin actually led really well into that one, but he just didn't have enough damage.
Yeah, didn't get the couple rolls he needed to make that into a 2-0, and instead we are going to Game 3, so let's hop right into this next match. Both of these players choosing their Pokemon incredibly quickly. We'll have to see if Gavin thinks that he needs to make any changes, or if he just needs to roll the dice a little bit better, or if John changes it up completely again and goes with an entirely different mode.
And that was one of the shortest team previews I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah.
if you could have picked your Pokemon during Game 2, these guys probably would have done it.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like John will go back to the Azumarill mode, but leading with the Togekiss instead of the Lopunny up against Wash Rotom and Thundurus. So Gavin correctly identifying that Azumarill would be out on the field again, trying to get both of his Electric-type Pokemon in a good position. But again, that Togekiss out on the field, very disruptive.
This seems sort of like the epitome of if I'd just gotten a little bit luckier, I would have won the game. Both sides just choosing to do the same thing once again.
Well, Togekiss, follow me, making sure that no damage or taunts come out from Gavin's side onto that Azumarill, going to get a free setup. Taunt onto Togekiss, Thunderbolt from Wash Rotom onto Togekiss, going to deal some damage. Not quite 50%. Going to be interesting to see if Togekiss is going to be able to survive another turn up against the Thundurus and the Wash Rotom. Belly Drum from Azumarill, again, maximizing its attack, healing up a little bit more. And, Gavin's in a little bit better position because Togekiss is weaker now, but Azumarill still got set up.
Yeah, absolutely. A different Pokemon coming in to support the Azumarill this time. Togekiss instead of Lopunny. I think John's actually in a really fascinating turn here where he's played so conservatively with Azumarill. In the previous game, I'm curious if Gavin wants to anticipate the Protect and he can't just get a cheap return off here.
Well, it looks like there will be a taunt coming out from Thundurus onto Azumarill. We'll go for the Aqua Jet, pick up the KO onto Thundurus, as we saw in Game 2. So it looks like just another trade here, taunt for a KO. Togekiss going for the Air Slash, misses, but Will-O-Wisp will connect. So, Gavin got the roll this time.
Yeah, he did indeed. And that's kind of the danger of attacking there with Azumarill rather than going to Lopunny. John does make that play. Actually goes for the Thundurus instead, which might be a bigger issue for some of his other Pokemon. We've saw how frustrating the taunts been, so certainly we can understand. But puts Gavin in a much better position than the previous game. Finally, Rotom gets an attack off. Fortunately, doesn't miss the Will-O-Wisp. I'm sure Gavin wishes he could have used the Thunderbolt, but probably a similar situation to that Thunderous where the defensive Rotom may not be able to pick up this knockout. And at least now, Azumarill's burn, it can only survive so much longer, and that attack is a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more manageable, but still threatening. Kangaskhan Mega Evolving, going to get the Fake Out off onto that Azumarill, making sure that it takes no more damage from it. Dealing a lot of damage, actually, with the Fake Out. Azumarill will flinch. Togekiss getting the Air Slash off again on Wash Rotom. Will Rotom be able to get an attack off this time? No, still flinching. So as soon as Air Slash hits, Rotom doesn't get to move.
Yeah, apparently just every time. That's how it works.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, just like Fake Out Slash, just every time, just boom, you got it. Unfortunately, Azumarill takes enough damage there that a Sucker Punch, if Gavin's Kangaskhan has it, and I don't know why it wouldn't, should be able to finish off this Azumarill if it tries to Aqua Jet here, and it isn't able to protect because of that taunt. So Gavin still worked himself into a pretty nice slot here. He would very much like to be able to attack with his Rotom and actually take the 2 Pokemon knockout in this turn, but even if he doesn't, he's in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, it looks like John will switch out that Togekiss. You have to hope that John has some more damage in the back, and it looks like he does. Excadrill now out on the field. Azumarill, of course, we saw it deal all of the damage last game. Aqua Jet will get off, actually, onto that Kangaskhan. Going to deal a little bit of damage, but not quite enough. Double Edge from the Kangaskhan onto the Excadrill, actually. Going to deal a lot of damage back to that, even though it's a resisted attack, but taking a lot more damage in recoil. Rotom will be able to get the Thunderbolt off onto Azumarill, finally picking that up, and of course, picking the KO up there, and also damaging that Excadrill, the other major offensive threat from John's team.
The other major threat indeed, but now Togekiss can get back in and avoid the taunt, and I guess it's Lopunny instead.
Yeah, well, Lopunny out on the field. We also know that that Excadrill with Mold Breaker can threaten that Rotom, get it off the field, and then focus down that Kangaskhan.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see that happen, but Excadrill, unless it also has 2 ground-type attacks, it can only knock out 1 Pokemon at the time, and if it does have Earthquake, Lopunny probably really wouldn't appreciate that too much. The Fake-Out pressure does allow Excadrill to probably pick up 1 knockout here, but it's going to be careful. A Double Edge or a Hydro Pump would easily knock it out from either of these Pokemon. I'm a little bit surprised to see the Lopunny angle rather than the Togekiss one. I'm curious if we will see a Protect and a Teeter Dance here rather than a Fake-Out play, because Excadrill's still in a little bit too much danger with both of these quicker, one faster Pokemon out and the dangerous Rotom, though.
You also have to wonder if Landorus is in the back or if that game 2 scared Gavin off from bringing it.
Yeah, wouldn't be too surprised to see a Fake Out on the Landorus slot now and a Drill Run on Rotom.
Yep, Landorus in favor of Kangaskhan. Gavin was not afraid of the Azumarill, knew that Landorus would be one of the Pokemon he needed to get the win over John here. Lopunny will Mega Evolve, going to go ahead and probably use that Fake Out on the now Landorus slot, as you mentioned. Try to pick up a KO onto the Rotom, but actually protect from Excadrill, so this is going to be another Teeter Dance play. Lopunny going to confuse both the Landorus and the Wash Rotom. I kind of would have liked to have seen John go for the KO there, actually. But we'll have to see what Gavin can do now. The confusion from Wash Rotom, not able to get an attack off, so you know what? This is why I'm behind the desk and John is playing.
Yeah, I actually think I like this play better. The Drill Run would be nice if you can get it, but I think expecting Landorus is in the back, as it should be, after it pretty much single-handedly won the first game. I don't know for sure, but with a Focus Sash on that Excadrill and an Intimidate, I doubt it knocks out Rotom from there, and if Rotom just gets out a free Hydro Pump and knocks out Excadrill, the game's pretty much over. I think the smarter play by John there not to take that risk.
Yeah, well, John is not taking any risks at all. Switches Excadrill out in favor of the Togekiss. Gets another confusion hit on Landorus. Lopunny's Drain Punch is going to go through onto the Wash Rotom, trying to deal as much damage, a little chip damage on that Wash Rotom as possible. Confusion again, hits itself in its own confusion. Looks like Gavin's just not getting the rolls, and Lopunny's Teeter Dance doing work.
Yeah, wow, Teeter Dance, apparently the new metagame right here. It's still a difficult spot, though. I mean, Gavin's going to get a bunch of chances to try to attack, and getting a knockout here, withdrawing Landorus, bringing it back out, I would put him in a really fabulous position. So important for John to try to get a knockout quickly, and he's not in a great position to do that. Typically, when we see this Togekiss Excadrill, we see Tailwind on the Togekiss would give Excadrill a chance to win this game, but we haven't seen it from John yet, so I don't know if it has it. And I guess one more fun piece of trivia, too, with this Togekiss Excadrill combination being important for this battle, but it was made famous in 2013 by Randy Qua, who Gavin eliminated in the top 4 of this tournament that year.
Yeah, and it looks like the Excadrill Togekiss may have a chance at revenge. Drain Punch onto Wash Rotom, dealing a little bit more damage again. Going to activate that Citrus Berry as Landorus switches out for Kangaskhan, just trying to preserve preserve those intimidates. Rotom snapping out of confusion gets the Thunderbolt off onto Togekiss, while Kangaskhan avoids the Air Slash. So Kangaskhan now back in the field. Togekiss now in the red, and that miss and then the snap out of confusion. You mentioned Gavin would get a lot of chances, and he got the one that he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got mostly back in control here. I mean, I don't know if I want to go too far with that yet, but it should be able to at least get in a position where John has to get that teeter dance up again, so kind of burn through some turns, get some more chances to deal damage. He's still actually got to get another attack off since he didn't get a knockout that turn, but he's in a pretty good spot now.
Yeah, fake out from Kangaskhan will pick up the KO onto Togekiss, but again, that Rocky Helmet dealing some good damage back. May put it into Drain Punch KO range, actually, from Lopunny. Togekiss will feint Drain Punch from the Lopunny onto Kangaskhan, going to connect, will be able to pick up the KO there. Kangaskhan goes down. Wash Rotom now on the field, so Wash Rotom and Landorus up against Lopunny and Excadrill in the back. Lopunny taking that Thunderbolt, taking it like a champ, actually. That's a very bulky bunny.
Yeah, absolutely, and that Rotom is maybe not the most offensively gifted Pokemon we've ever seen. However, Gavin gets himself to a great spot. Even though both sides trade KOs, Landorus now can lock into that superpower, start spreading that around, and he should be able to close the game out.
Yeah, unless John gets way too many teeter dance confusion hits.
Yeah, so Gavin, he played it really smart in that first game where he just didn't give John the chance to try to teeter dance the Landorus. I'm expecting him to do the same thing here. What he needs to do is just keep superpowering that Lopunny slot, not risk that happening. We'll see if he does that here.
Well, Excadrill is protecting, going to project that the teeter dance was coming out, but as you correctly identified, Landorus with the superpower picking up the KO onto Lopunny. The handshake across the table, looks like Gavin will take the first round in 3 games.
Really exciting series, though, isn't it?
Really good series. Of course, the Hydro Pump into the Protect. After game 1, it looked like John didn't have a way out of this, but he really clawed his way back into it both that game and in game 2, switching up with the Azumarill. And then this game 3 was, just a barn burner. Excadrill finally going down to that Landorus, and there you have it. Gavin wins the first match of the day. He will move on to 1-0. Of course, John now 0-1. Not where you want to be at the start of your day 2, but still very possible for him to come back and make it to the top cut.
Yeah, certainly we've seen repeatedly, even just this weekend, that he's a resilient player.